Origin Clear is a company that focuses on wastewater treatment.
And hello, everyone. Welcome to the Water's the New Gold CEO briefing. Our mission is to transform the water industry.
Decentralization offers us this opportunity.
The plan that you've built here is super impressive.
The world is experiencing a crisis in regards to water. It's a great opportunity that you are giving us investors.
The decentralization of water treatment means that we no longer need to establish giant water treatment plants.
Let them fight over the 20%. Let's work with the 80% that's untreated.
Over 21,000 unique alternative investments.
3 million jobs in the U.S. alone.
Making it easy for the regular investor.
All the old trends just accelerated.
Lucrative and fulfilling.
The vision I've got is to standardize these products.
Design, build, own, and operate.
We have 65 people in the room.
We got an important message to share to the world.
We can put a guy on the moon, but our water is horrible.
Recycling all about water. It's a huge impact for the environment.
Bringing new infrastructure in to drive growth in America.
That's a critical part of the picture.
It's a twin 125 gallon per minute RO system.
I don't think we're talking about a $10 million fund. We're talking about a series of $10 million funds.
Yeah, the opportunity itself is very big.
To live, yes. Take care of the water.
Not too many CEOs do a weekly briefing and are willing to talk to individual investors.
All right. So welcome to Water's the New Gold. And it is Thursday the 17th, or unlike my CEO update, which called it February 1Y, and briefing number 147. We are in the world's only vital, scarce, and recession-proof market, and we are learning that every day. Lots of exciting things to discuss in this update. Let's move quickly into the rest of it. Obviously, we are still real-time interpreting into Spanish, and as we gain more listeners in other countries like Italy, we will add that as well. We have expansion going on in other countries of Europe, and perhaps we'll have Russia, all kinds of fun stuff. Okay, and of course, as always, we do our very best to tell you how it is. Of course, the actual results could differ materially from those contemplated. And with that, I am now going to play a podcast.
Welcome to another episode of Young Entrepreneurs with the Green Roof team. My name is Nelson Fernandez, and we're here today with Riggs Eichelberry. How are you doing today?
Nelson, I'm doing great, and it's really so great to be on your show. I love your mission and what you're trying to do there.
For the past 2-3 years now, I've been working for a liquefied natural gas company, so we try and do as much work as we can on site, especially when it comes into playing with the surrounding water areas. Like, for example, there's a swamp-like area nearby that was destroyed many years ago, but then the facility, we went in and put in the money to be able to revitalize it, and now we make sure it's maintained because we want to make sure that we keep the public happy. It's near beaches, but then also it's our more so like responsibility to make sure we keep the area better. So it's amazing work, and I'm excited to keep on hearing about it, especially how it affects the local areas. My cousin actually lives in Fort Lauderdale, and anytime I visit him, we never drink out the tap. We always have
exactly.
Water or jugs.
I know, it's pretty sad. But it sounds like you have a good situation where you are, but it's unfortunately not the rule. The rule is that there's, like Fort Lauderdale has these problems with sewer mains breaking and poop ending up on the lawns and all kinds of stories. And the water quality. So that you can invest in an oil well, right? And you get royalties. You can't do that with a water system. You can't invest in a water system. And we thought that was really strange, because if the water industry needs money, well, why don't we open it up to regular investors to invest in? And so that's what we did. It's something called Water on Demand. And basically, if a business wants a water system, they get it. They just start paying by the gallon, just like they did with the city. And then the investor gets a royalty, and people love investing in water much more than in oil. I mean, they think it's great, right? Because it's sustainable. We're raising money very quickly on that to specifically pay for these water as a service type projects.
So then once an industry or area, they use a water treatment system, does it stay within the utility company? So then are you sending the clean water back to the utility company?
Correct. The utilities are perfectly happy to get treated water back, so they just don't want the dirty water. You talk about sustainability. You know that Israel recycles almost 90% of its water. The second in the world is Spain at 20%. The US, 1%. Now, the reason for it is a design reason. None of these, we have older water systems that were designed, Israel designed everything post-World War II, right? That's when they were created.
Quite recent compared to the Americas and Europe.
Right. It's kind of like the same way we're stuck with old phone lines, right? So here we have old water systems that only go one way. Like I used to live in LA, and if you flush your toilet in Beverly Hills, the water goes all the way down to the ocean. It's treated and it goes in the ocean. It's clean, but it doesn't go back to Beverly Hills. It's over. But if you're in Beverly Hills and you treat it yourself, you can keep reusing it, right? And so that's where the recycling can occur, is at the point of use. Now, the infrastructure doesn't have all that load. It's been unburdened, and the users have control. And by the way, water rates are inflating at a rate 3 times the rate of normal inflation. So as it is, it's a really bad situation that hopefully we can help mitigate, but also return a good investment that's inflation friendly to the investor. So all in all, Origin Clear is providing an inflation friendly way to invest in an asset, water, which is very beneficial, and increases sustainability through promoting recycling and control of the process by the user. And we think that's the future. Not just in America, but in North America and the world eventually.
Amazing. So touching upon more the financial side of water and demand.
Yes.
How does your company be able to generate revenue?
Well, I'll give you a good example. Used to be you bought Microsoft Office for like $130 one time, boom. Now you pay for it like $19 a month. And if you do the math, you're paying more, right? Over time. But you're getting a better product. You've got the OneDrive, the cloud, you've got real-time everything. Microsoft Office it's a live managed product, right? And so you don't mind spending that money because you're doing all kinds of cool things in there, and it, all of a sudden some feature shows up, boop, and that is what we're trying to bring to water. In other words, moving from here's your water system, have fun, goodbye, to here's a service. We're going to take care of your water, and you won't have to worry. You don't have experts. We'll just make sure it runs and make sure through remote management that the proper treatment's done. And you just pay us, X amount per gallon on a long-term contract, and everybody's happy.
So it's more of a subscription purchase where you have continual maintenance available and services than just a one-time, here you go.
I was talking to a brewery owner, and literally while I was talking to him, this guy shows up, and who are you? Oh, I'm the guy. Your chiller showed an alert on our network, and I've come to fix it. The brewer didn't even know it was broken, and the guy shows up to fix it. That's called a service. So all his chillers were being handled by the firm under contract, and he didn't have to worry about it. It's like, no, you know what? That's fine. They got it. This really allows you to focus on your core business. And I think at the end of the day, the more you can do that and delegate all the things that are not core focus, the better you'll do.
So thinking about a company as a whole, how do you go about ensuring that the areas of the company that you're not well versed in is accessible?
Bill Gates once said, you try to hire people who are smarter than you. And that is the case, obviously smarter in their specialty, right? So I have a COO who is much smarter than me in operations, and I have a CFO who is much smarter than me in finance, and so forth and so on. So we started doing well when I started getting good people around me who I didn't have to tell them what to do. They're like, okay, hey, Riggs, I just figured this whole thing out. We're doing this. I'm like, great, carry on, right? It's almost a synchronicity concept, right? 2018, we were like running out of conventional financing options. And then this amazing guy, Ken Berenger, showed up, who's now executive vice president and my co-strategist on Water on Demand. And somehow magically he became available, and it's been amazing ever since. This is true of our chief strategic officer and president, Andrea D'Agostini. Same thing. We hired him just a couple months ago, and he magically became available. So I think that you sort of progress your own organization to a point where it's the right fit for or the right person to come in. Get a good team. That's super important.
Definitely, I agree. How did you see changes in mission of the company and direction you were going?
Well, this company, Nelson, was built in the public markets. It's kind of how we got ourselves funded. But during the 14 years we've been in business, the over-the-counter market, the penny stock market, has really gone down the drain because there's been a lot of abuses. A lot of people have taken people for a ride, and so we've made that our big goal now is get on NASDAQ. There's certain requirements, and we have a roadmap to get to them. I think that is the most critical thing we could do is to be a NASDAQ company and really define this new water as a managed service concept for the marketplace and be a market leader, sort of be the Amazon of water. And that to me is we got to do it. We got to move up to that level. We have a superb investor base, great team. We got the right business model, good technologies. At this point, it's just work night and day, and we'll get there, right?
What are some ways that your company moves forward to be able to invite new investors, new clients in?
I think now it's moving more like it's an attractive concept of water like an oil well, and the investability and so forth, and making it a cool new thing for investors to do. That now we just need to get a lot of visibility for it. Just get a lot of, and we don't care if they're going to invest. We just want people to like the concept and be interested. And that will build its own, virality in a way, right? Because people use word of mouth, et cetera. That's really our next step is to not be the best kept secret. We're pretty good. I mean, we have good visibility and so forth, but I'm talking about, water on demand becoming a word of the business world, shall we say, right? That needs to happen because then we can really start to take our ideas and share them. And we don't want to hold on to it all, right? We want like, hey, let's have a bunch of water companies doing this. Let's make it a big thing that is done a lot. One company doesn't change an industry. 20 companies don't, but 100 or 1,000 companies, that starts to make change. And so that's really where, by having a tremendous amount of visibility and documented wins, investors winning at making good, generational money from royalties, et cetera, then it starts to all kind of become like something people are excited about. And the word gets around, and then you become hopefully a household word in the business investing world.
Amazing. Sounds great. Well, thank you again, Mr. Igelberry, for joining me today and discussing Clear Origin, sustainability, and technology.
Nelson, it's been such a pleasure. I wish you luck with your project. Sounds like you got a good thing going. And let's check in on each other in a few months and see how we're doing. Peace out. Thank you.
Cool guy, definitely cool guy. And that was a great interview. I was able to discuss a lot of what's happening, what we're trying to do, what's important to us, and to be very frank, what we need to do to succeed. I see that people are raising their hands. And Linda, thank you.
Yeah, it's a very nice comment she made.
Yes, she goes, wow, you explained the company and its objectives so clearly and simply. Awesome. Linda, thank you for being so supportive as an investor, but also understanding us. And I saw that somebody raised their hand. We don't typically take raised hands. It's better if you chat to us, and then we'll answer in the chat. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to continue, because the next big topic is water cyber attacks, which is a big deal. Oh, and of course, as always, I want to report on the status of Water on Demand Capital. We are inching along. We are so close. And Ken tells me we're about to get some big leaps forward. This is, it was 932,600 last week. It's now 957,100. Again, remember, that's only 50% of what's come in is what goes into these subsidiaries. The rest of it is used to build the subsidiary and so forth. So, and we actually sacrifice profits. We hand them over to the investors in order to be able to do that growth part. So I'm predicting that this is going to flip over and that we will have a public announcement next week, because I know I have a clue what's coming in. Am I right, Ken?
You do. I have not been keeping it a secret, but we've been coordinating pretty regularly, and I've had a very busy week. So we've had a really productive week this week and next week. I think as we start to kind of put some reality out there on what we're doing, I think that'll accelerate quite a bit.
Excellent. So Joseph Odima just actually chatted with everyone, saying in case a person wants to invest in this project, what do they need to do? And I'm sure you'll pick up on him. I'll let you do a response on that while I continue. So doing very well on water on demand, and we will keep going here. Now, what's going on with water cybersecurity? You know that I used to be the general manager of a worldwide software company called Panda Software, Spanish-based, and I had, and of course, I helped take a company public onto the NASDAQ that was in the cyberspace. So I know a little bit about it, but let's take a look at what's happening in water. We actually got featured in a Forbes article about this. Here's what we said about it. And basically that Washington is basically not funding the 150,000 municipal water systems. And so we are quite unprepared. And there are few reservoirs of clean water outside of the municipal water districts, and that is dangerous. Okay, well, let me go ahead and do a deeper dive because, of course, they featured a very small piece of what I responded to them. First of all, in terms of background, there's on July 21st of last year, there was a hearing about cyber threats, and that is actually the top threat facing the U.S. water sector, according to the American Water Works Association. There's also multi-stage intrusion campaigns by, who knows, Russian government, the next door neighbor, dude with a computer, whatever it is, because I'll tell you something, water systems are not well protected. So that's important. In fact, there was a water industry survey that said that 88% of water professionals said that it was a high priority issue. Now, I do not know why. Let me just see here. So somehow, well, anyway, here is the top threat, but here it's ranked much lower. But nonetheless, 88% said it was a high priority issue. So it's very, very important. Now, also, there's a commission that works on this, and they've identified water and wastewater utilities as comprising one of the components most vulnerable to cyber attacks.
Wow.
In fact, there have been multiple attacks to date. According to CPO magazine, which is a cyber professional organization magazine, last June, they reported there had been a total of 4 of these. And so how could these happen? How are they possible? Well, here's the problem. The water sector has been starved for funding since the mid to late 70s. And the money has basically just gone away. Now, here's what's interesting. We have I'm going to go ahead and bring up, why is it that water gets less attention in the electrical grid? Well, it's simply very simple. For reasons that I don't quite understand, and there's a graph right there that shows you, we're on our way to right now we're about $75 billion a year, falling behind every year. And the biggest infrastructure bill, multi-trillion dollars, well, that provided less than a year of catch up. So the central water systems are in trouble, they're not being helped, and it's not changing. So when something, definition of insanity, they're doing the same thing, expecting a different result. The central utilities are not going to get the support. What could happen? Well, of course, as I mentioned on the Forbes article, that there's problems because clean water does not really exist out of the municipal water districts. All right. Now, here's the answer. It is redundancy. We need to make sure that, and this is where we're coming into what we think is going to make a difference, is decentralization. If people at the edge, the internet was built this way, where it was built by the Defense Advanced Research DARPA, they built the internet as a way to survive nuclear attacks by having redundancy and distributed networks. And that's the power of the internet to this day. Well, we need to do the same thing for water. And survivability of the water grid will happen by making the businesses themselves clean the water. And of course, they can now control their costs and reuse the same water. Thus, they make it's a better financial deal for them. And of course, it's water on demand. Security is always best carried out in layers. This is what I learned in the security industry. And I really do see the trend towards decentralization of water treatment and conveyance, meaning transporting water, as being the best scenario. Okay, so that brings us to our open section. And what I'm going to do first of all is I see a couple chats. Soft Water for Life says hello. Well, hello, Soft Water for Life. It's a pleasure. Robert Baxter, nice to hear from you. And so we are at a fascinating stage right now where we have basically that $1 million. I'm telling everyone that the numbers coming in for 2021 are superb. I'm super pleased with the Texas and Virginia teams. So our conventional business is taking off. As we discussed last week, while I was fiddling with my machine, we've got a partner that we're putting together a relationship with very, very soon. And what's great about that is we'll instantly benefit from 10 years of experience with those guys. So, Ken, what are you hearing from the people you're talking to on the investment calls?
So the conversations that I'm having right now, how this is finally all clicking together, people are kind of, there's a great deal of kind of mutual agreement that this was really ultimately the kind of like, I was hoping you'd take this path, right? Look, I think everybody understood that, building, the design, the build, the own, we could do that. We've been doing that for decades. But it was that last component that could have had a logistical, could have been kind of a bit of a marathon. And the excitement that I hear in people's voices when I say, look, we can basically adopt a 10-year track record where this has been enormously successful already. So we can now go to much larger investors, a whole different type of investor. And instead of saying, well, here's what we hope what we could do. Here's what us and our team who does the building and the management, right? Here's what our 10-year performance record speaks, right? Performance record is a way different conversation than a pro forma, right? And I think it just brings us into a whole new level. And I'm getting a lot of that feedback from from the folks that I'm speaking to. And the skeptics are turning into fans, and the fans are turning into stalkers, which is great.
Stalkers? You have your stalkers?
Stalkers, yeah.
Well, in fact, one of the issues, in fact, Rob was just brought up is like, okay, someday will the stock price take off? And we don't, of course, manage by stock price. If I try and push the stock price up, guess what? It's like pushing string. What works is by getting fundamentals going, by building the asset base and then putting it to work and generating business, while our conventional business literally potentially doubles. And I didn't say that. I didn't say nothing about nothing doubling. So there will be more.
To add to that, Riggs, you said something earlier in your interview with the young man, Nelson, about Microsoft with your experience in high tech. Well, everyone says, well, Microsoft is Amazon is a multi-billion. Well, within Amazon, within Microsoft, they're not islands. There are thousands and thousands and thousands of companies that feed that economy, right? There's the economy of Amazon, right? Well, the Amazon economy is fed by trucking companies, logistics companies, thousands of operators within that. We are at that point now where we're starting to adopt really competent partners and vendors to be like you said, you built a great team around you. Thank you, by the way. I'm flattered. But that's what we're doing as a company now. We're building a team. We were an island. We were, on our own trying to push this rock up this hill. And we were able to do that for a number of years. But now we're at a stage now we're able to bring talent this is now coming through laws of attraction. People are finding us and saying, look, I love what you're doing. I want to be part of it. And we're able now to incorporate some of these different businesses and companies to greatly accelerate what would have been a much longer slog for us. Does that make sense?
No question about it. In fact, Jack Ma, when he first proposed Alibaba, could get nobody behind it. He could not get funding for it. It was like, what? Huh? What?
Yeah.
And Alibaba is a very similar model to ours. They actually are just a market. They don't try. Amazon does a lot more. Amazon does the shipping and they carry a lot of brands themselves and so forth. Alibaba's like, no, we just put you guys together and you do your stuff. And it's actually
much lower risk.
It's a bigger model, right? So at lower risk, exactly. That's a really, really good point. So we will be, here's what I expect to have happen in terms of announcements. Next week, I expect to be able to announce that we have the Water on Demand, the magic $1 million mark hit and blown past it. I know that's going to happen. You've got some amazing stuff coming. We hope to have the Permionics relationship in place, and that will instantly enable us to internalize. It will no longer be fictional numbers. These will be real numbers based on their 10 years of actual experience with systems that they currently manage, which is fantastic. And we're going to continue to build things. Now, Bob and I are having a little dialogue here separately. Why stock price? And I have to tell you, this is very simple. The thing that you don't drive stock price, you drive volume of people looking at the stock. And this is why Andrea's come on board. I can tell that you're a little bit under the weather there, Andrea. You're very brave to come into this.
Thank you. Just static. It's just static. It's okay.
He's like, I'm good. He's like stumbles into the room and goes online because he's a brave guy. But the truth is that this is why Andrea and the brilliant new VP Marketing, Josh Summers, will come on board. We want to bring Josh, into one of these CEO briefings. So we have just an amazing team, which is now going to help me make this, as I said in that podcast I just did, we will no longer be the best kept secret, because this thing is world changing. So that's what I'm thinking about that. I also have there's going to be I wanted to mention this, and I didn't want to put it in this particular session, but Morgan Stanley did an amazing deep dive into the water crisis as an investing, the scarcity, the problems, and what it implies for investing in some of the solutions. And this is going to be next week. I want to really look at how the investing world is seeing water. And I have to tell you, it's the right time. It is the right time for us to step into water and do what we're saying. And what I'm so amazed about is my mind is still kind of blown that we're actually doing that. Ken, you started bringing in capital that is being devoted to these projects, right? This is shocking. It's amazing.
And to become a brand associated with the recycling and reusing of water, to become that, look, being first, we can't overstate the importance of that. We just can't.
Agreed.
People often ask me, Ken, why hasn't anybody done this before? And it's because, they were able to operate in this massive $1 trillion business quite successfully. There was plenty of business to be had. But it was looking at what all the stuff, maybe because we weren't traditional water guys, you didn't have to basically, if you're a hammer, everything is a nail, right? Maybe we looked, well, what about the 80% of the world that's doing nothing? And that became our focus. And with the brilliance of Dan Early's, technology, being able to, make these things portable and drop and go, it opened up that market really for the first time, and creating it as an MLP style model.
Master limited partnership.
Right. So, right. In other words, it took so many decades to completely disrupt massive industries. But if you have the leverage of the entire world's interest, their interest could be purely on an ecological basis, making the world a better place. That could be the only reason that they want to be involved, and that's great. But there are also people that have worked their whole lives that are afraid of, they want to do some wealth preservation. They want to do inflation protection stuff, and creating a vehicle that actually accommodates both. There's a real chance that this could be done much more rapidly than kind of a traditional disruption, which I think is probably one of the more exciting aspects of what we're doing.
Yes, and one of the things I plan to do next week also is I'm going to. One of the wonderful things is we are not alone. We're not the only people in the space.
Right.
The design, build, own, operate space, water as a service, has some key players, and I'm going to review how we position. I did a little piece internally on this. Okay, here's one company, here's us, here's the other company, pros and cons, where they are, where we are, and how we're different. And I can tell you in a nutshell, the number one reason we're different is that we're not trying to do everything ourselves. We are happy to delegate it. We're happy to give up the profit from building a machine in order, to make a water company in Tacoma, Washington really, really happy. But in addition, we don't have to build it, we don't have to run it, we don't have to service it. It's all being done remotely, and we just have to make sure that it runs right. Not a small task, because if we don't make sure it runs right, then we could get in trouble. But at least the big heavy lifting is not being done. We're more of a fintech. Remember we literally call Water on Demand a fintech? That was one of the very first things we called it. Sure. And it's literally what we're doing here is a fintech.
And really, the thing about this is, the profit of building one yourself. I'd rather have 1% of the efforts of 100 men than get 100% off the efforts of myself. That's a fleeting moment. You get it. Great, I sold it. Now I'm out of business again. Now what do I do? But having 1,000 operators out there and collecting money for decades, I mean, that's obviously 100 times more scalable.
Exactly. The master limited partnerships are exactly that. They're an assembly of independently operated pipelines and wells, et cetera. And that's the same concept. It's a very, very distributed concept. And we're going to have a lot more fun with this as we go forward, and basically be willing to share the work. Now, one of the things we're going to do from a focus point of view is we've been very concerned about branding. Like we do Water on Demand, but hey, also we have these work. So what we're moving towards, it's Water on Demand, Origin Clear's Water on Demand, and we have Water on Demand Engineering, which is progressive water treatment in Dallas, and Water on Demand Technology, which is that modular stuff that is so perfect for the Water on Demand. So it's everything becomes Water on Demand related. And that's going to have to be it, because it's going to simplify Andrea and Josh's job if they're talking about one thing, Water on Demand, all the time. So are you happy about that, Andrea?
I'm very happy about it. And actually the branding that is coming out is quite something. Like when you will see how it comes out, it's coming out already nice. You haven't seen it yet, but I can show it to you afterwards. We're already working on the branding and the messaging, and it's quite exciting. This thing is going to hunt because there is a real demand and it's a real help. So it brings it. It's I'm not going to say it's easy to do because it's a tough endeavor, but it's really worth it. So when you're working on these things, although hard, it makes you happy. That's why we're pouring our heart into it. And we are some amazing relationships getting crafted and built, and I'm very happy.
Well, as I mentioned in the podcast, I've got we've got a team here that does not have to be told what to do, and I'm so grateful. Like literally, Andrea, you're telling me I got stuff you haven't even seen. I'm like, I like that. Because usually I'm the guy herding cats. This is so good.
I got it.
Well, good. Well, this has been great. I'm going to go ahead and put on screen the contact info for Ken. Even though many of you have it, I think it's important to let you have it. He is very, very sophisticated. Just go to oc.gold/Ken, email invest@originclear.com, or call this 800 number, extension 201, 877-440-4603, extension 201. Who calls the phone anymore? It's crazy. But oc.gold will put you directly into a scheduled call on Ken's calendar. So simply.
And even if you do have the connection, the context of Ken, maybe some of your friends don't. And as we were saying before, this is a common effort. It's something that we're doing together. So share it with your friends and share it with those people that you have around and know that could create a positive impact in life, because that's a way to do it. It's a real way to do it. And it's a very profitable one. So yes, the best of both worlds, you know what I mean? So Don't be shy, talk about it. Your word means a lot. There is nothing better than word of mouth when it comes to explaining to someone, dude, I believe in this thing. Just go and speak with Ken, and Ken will do the rest. So I would love to know that you have done it, and please write us when you've done it and when you've created a connection. We really appreciate that. That's something that we need to do together.
And one easy way to write to me is simply reply to my CEO update, and it goes straight into my inbox. And I love to hear from you guys. So just to recap the coming news, we're going to have this one-on-demand milestone. We expect to announce an agreement with Promionics, and I'm planning to give guidance on the full year 2021. Prasad, our CFO, has done an amazing job of, we had big problems last year, as everyone knows, with late filings, and boy, that is done. And my, Gwen Duffy, our heroic external bookkeeper, said, she wrote me to say how happy she was, and everything's running early and so forth. What that means is I'm going to be able to give everyone public guidance on what the numbers are. And I think we're going to be very happy. So with that, I want to thank everyone for coming on board. Andrea, go back and rest and continue to make yourself stronger. And Ken, keep up the good work. You are rocking, bro.
And yeah, and look, I appreciate everybody taking the time to attend. What we often communicate kind of sounds like a kind of a long explanation of it, but really, if anyone, to Andrea's point, when you're communicating our message, okay, you're doing whoever you're communicating to an amazing favor, and you're doing the mission a favor. Basically, you just say, look, I know a company that's literally changing the world in a way that's more important than cellular change telecom. If they're successful, we could prevent millions of illnesses and death and create one of the largest transformations of wealth of our lifetime. Now, that should create some curiosity. Then just tell them to go to oc.gold/Ken.
Love that. Bob Baxter wants to know, how can I help you sell your product in my state? And Bob, simply send an email to water@originclear.com, water@originclear.com. That goes to the top execs in the company. They see it in real time. Tom Martuscello will be happy to respond to you. He's doing an amazing job of building a partner channel. So thank you, everyone, again. It's been great. Have a good night.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
And have a great weekend.